Hey y'all, it's Kim. It's Friday, so we're gonna go ahead and knock out page 9. Excuse me, let me get situated here. Page 9 of the JFK docs. They don't look very long. I may see if I can do maybe another one as well. We'll see. If I'm looking a little disheveled, I did take the dog out walking about 2 miles, so we're kind of sweaty mess. Hold on, I gotta write something down. 2 miles. Yeah, I just have to write my things down. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this one. Uh, JFK Files. Like I said, it's page 9. If you go to the archives, it is page 9. See right here? Yep, page 9. So these are the documents that are included in that. So let's start. So this says secret and then precedents. I'm guessing this is maybe showing some background information on something. And then this looks like from November 78. This says, I guess 30 something. Something was crossed off there. And then this also is 78, is what it says. Oh, November 29th, 1978. All right, so it has site LA and Miami 29191, priority director Rybat or W, excuse me, WN Intel, Rybat Slank, LA Miami 2910. Good. 291901631 and then 1400 Southwest 16th Street, Miami, Florida 33145. And the telephone number. Let's see. So this was just some kind of information. I don't even know what that really is, but hey, whatever. It just says precedents. Let's see. So memo for file, subject C, OTS, late TSD, and Jim McCord's Cuban activities. Ben calling phoned to say that one of the fellows in jail is still around. And after he got out, he inquired around and got no indication that McCord was ever involved. None of the other OTS people have any recollection of McCord's involvement. I said that I was sure that the man who was rolled up might not have any idea of McCord's involvement, if indeed he was involved. If McCord's involvement was merely headquarters planning and no releasing operation was ever undertaken, his role might never surface. However, he has been told that planning did involve TSD people at the time, along with security. For instance, I knew that the security man with TSD at the time had a job of hand holding with the families of the 3 men. There may be some TSD record of that, which would lead to someone who would know. Calling was pulled out of staff meeting to talk to me and said he would call back later. This says return to the CIA, and then whoever SDB is. Let's see here. Secret. This is 20th of September 1960 memorandum for Director of Central Intelligence. Subject summary of ST Escalade audio operation against the New China News Agency in Havana. In May 1959, the New China News Agency opened an office in Havana in the El Medico building, which is occupied partly by business concerns and partly used for residential apartments. Shortly thereafter, the Havana station obtained the currency, or excuse me, obtained the concurrence of Ambassador Bonsall and Miss Carolyn O. Stacy, an embassy employee, to mount an audio operation against NC&A through the wall of the adjacent apartment in which Miss Stacy lived. In November 1959, the FE division sent 1 case officer and 1 TSD technician to Havana, and the installation of a microphone and tape recorder was completed in Miss Stacy's apartment on 29th of November 1959. By June 1960, it had become evident that other two other rooms occupied by NCNA possibly housed communication equipment and ware used for conference. At that time, Brian Mills, FE Division case officer, went to Havana and explored the possibility of improving the operation. He managed to lease an apartment directly over the NCNA office and arranged for a stay behind agent to occupy this space. In August 1960, a team of 3 TSD technicians who were in Havana on a separate SR division operation agreed to install the additional equipment required for the NCNA operation. A second FE division case officer, Robert Neat, came down to Havana, and he, together with the technicians, installed a probe microphone and tape recorder in the apartment obtained by Mills over the NCNA office. About this time, the equipment was removed from Miss Stacy's apartment, with the exception of the plastic probe, which was left in the wall and plastered over. As an additional security precaution to provide a safe haven, and after consultation with the acting chief of station, a key to an apartment in the same building leased by Mrs. Marjorie Lennox, an embassy secretary, was obtained. Miss Lennox was told that access to her apartment was needed for photographic surveillance purposes. The station was then faced with the probability that time and security will work against holding indefinitely the lease to the apartment over NCNA, since the owners of the building were canceling sublessors contracts and recalling leases. It was therefore decided to install transmitters and switches in order to permit continued monitoring of the target from a distant listening post. Another three-man team of TSD technicians consisting of David L. Christ, alias Carswell, Walter E. Zeminski, alias Taransky, and Thornton J. Anderson, alias Dan Brunt, documented as tourists and had been sent to Havana to install audio equipment in the Chinese nationalist embassy before it was due to be turned over to the Chinese communists. This operation aborted. This team was then sent to work on the installation of the transmitters in the apartment over at NCNA office at 2400 hours on 14th of September. Christ, who with the other technicians was working in the target apartment, failed to keep a scheduled appointment with Neat at 0100 hours. On the 15th of September, the apartment of Mrs. Lennox was entered into and searched by Cuban authorities, and she was taken into custody. At 1540 hours on the 15th of September, Neat, the stay-behind agent, and his wife were picked up by the Cuban authorities and detained. As of today, the agent remains in the custody of the Cuban authorities. His wife has been released and is still in Havana. Neat was released 1715 hours, 16th of September, and has subsequently returned to Washington, where he is being debriefed. Mrs. Lennox was subsequently released and has also returned to Washington, where she is being debriefed. The 3 TSD technicians remain in confinement. They have been seen in confinement but not contacted by an embassy officer. When he first attempted to secure the release of Mrs. Lennox, Christ was last seen by Neat when they were jointly interrogated the morning of 16th of September. At that time, Christ did not appear to have been maltreated. According to articles in the Cuban papers, the 3 technicians were arrested while in the apartment over the NCNA office and completing the installation of the equipment. The press article adds that the key to Mrs. Lennox's apartment was found on one of the technicians who identified the apartment to which it belonged. All Cuban press releases have referred to the men by alias and have not identified them as government or agency employees. It is unclear at present what story has been agreed upon by the technicians and station personnel to be used in the event they were caught while being interrogated with Neat. Christ indicated that Neat was his boss, and Neat consistently denied any knowledge as to why he was being held. The sublease for the apartment in which the men were caught is in the same or is in the name of the stay behind agent, the original lease being in the name of Mills, the FE division case officer. Initial information indicated that the three technicians will be charged with espionage against the people of China. Subsequent press releases have been unclear on this plot. An attempt by Consul Hugh Kessler to contact the three men at 17:30 hours on 17th of September was unsuccessful. He was not permitted to see them, but was told they were in custody. The three technicians traveled to Cuba as tourists under very light commercial cover, two of them working for a company in New York and the third one in Baltimore. In each case, the cover company consists of a telephone answering service and a name on the door. Telephone messages and and mail are picked up periodically by an agency contract employee. The men were provided with this cover as well as unbackstopped home addresses for use when entering or leaving Cuba as tourists, since the filling out of the landing card requires this information. Subsequent to their detention, the home addresses have been partially backstopped so that inquiries will indicate that someone with this alias name had lived in the apartment house in question. Insofar as the cover companies are concerned, efforts are being made to provide a backstop to withstand inquiries from the press should the Cubans reveal this information. In view of the thinness of the cover, it is uncertain whether this will succeed. A cleared and witting law firm in New York has been briefed by Mr. L. Houston on the situation, with the thought that inquiries received by the cover company could be referred to the firm of lawyers from whom no comment would be obtained by the press or other inquirers. The law firm has been briefed on the entire situation so that they may be in a position to act if any action by them appears desirable or feasible. It would not appear that much support of any kind can be obtained from the law firm or the law firms in Cuba which are associated with them. Insofar as the families are concerned, one of the technicians is a bachelor, presently on home leave between two tours in Japan. His father, a cook in a diner in the Boston area, has been contacted by the Office of Security, and he will get in touch with security if he receives any inquiries on this matter. Security, by the same token, will keep in touch with him as the Cubans reveal their intentions and course of action. The wives of the other two technicians have been told what has happened and are being contacted at least once daily by TSD staffers and their wives who have been briefed on the situation. A conference with the two wives was held in TSD on 19th of September to go over the whole situation and determine if there were any personal problems on which the agency could be of help. For the time being, the wives are telling their neighbors that their husbands are on a trip. This story will be adjusted depending on what course of action the Cuban government takes, whether the aliases remain unbroken, and whether recognizable photographs of the individuals are released to the press. The two wives so far have taken the bad news exceedingly well. This is Rudolph Gomez, acting chief. Okay, so this is memorandum regarding the ST Escalade. It says there's a folder of sensitive non-CS material pertaining to this operation retired under black tape wrapping. Job number 57 through or 67 through 86/78. Restricted to offices of DCI, DDCI, DDP, C/WHC/WH/PL, CWH, CCCI, CTSD. Director of Security and General Counsel, China Operations. Hold on. Yes, I want to say that. Okay, sorry. China Operations is not cited as an originator, addressee, or info recipient of any of this sensitive material. Let's see what else. Oh, this one's kind of going to be hard to read. A chart of something reference. Sectional authoritarian something I can't receive. I'll just put this in the link or put a link in there because this is not very good. This says request the release contingency, something plan 62-2 be implemented, port of entry, date, local time, and airfield, desire for pickup, desired destination, other requirements, name, organization, telephone number, requesting party, and then Major Richard Skinner, and then Mr. Robert, is that Marrero? Major Billy B. Campbell. Some of these are hard to read. Major Kenneth Burton. And then these are like the home address, home phone numbers. Let's see. Detective something Furnish 1C54. And crew is is in standby capacity until further notice. Standby capacity is herein defined as capability to position the aircraft at any port of entry. Good grief. In east, south, or southwest U.S. from Boston to Los Angeles within 15 hours. Assuming the subjects will be released in Havana or Mexico City, DET-1 will prepare mission folders for flights from most probable ports of entry to Isolation at Andrews Air Force Base. And this is Richard I. Skinner. And that's the end of that one. This is only like one page of something. It says secret sensitive. It says and resultant limited time available for committee matters plus other factors. It might be possible to hand carry selected KCIA documents to the SSCI for reading by Mr. Kramer. This office objected on the grounds of the sensitivity of the material, the ground rules established for the congressional and DOJ review of this material by staffers, and problems which could be caused by exceptional treatment being afforded to one committee or staffer. Mr. George Carey provided the compromise solution, which is acceptable to all parties, to wit, that Mr. Garbler invite Mr. Kramer to the agency for lunch, after which time he would review the requested material in the headquarters building, and then meeting of SSCI staffer and DDO at Mr. Hal Ford's request. A luncheon meeting with Mr. William Wells has been scheduled for 26th of October. Mr. Ford is researching material for a study on China reporting and wishes to discuss this subject with Mr. Wells due to his extensive background and experience in East Asian affairs. And then Assassinations Committee, Counsel G. Robert Blakey met with DO DDA security and OLC representatives to determine how he might frame his requirement to best meet our capabilities. His efforts appear to be aimed at the role possibles, excuse me, at the possible CIA role with the mafia and a double mafia role with Castro. He has information which implies that Trafficante was playing both sides. The IG, particularly Scott Breckenridge, has responsibility for the Bill Harvey Association and the analysis of the Schweiker report. Blakey has agreed that DO will concentrate initially on the Bayo Poly affair and the Soviet defector cover operation. Non-identified informants have told him that Colonel Rep Robertson was involved. His queries are logical, manageable, and if we can keep his requests to specific people or events, we should be able to respond to his requirements. It would be, in our opinion, an excellent idea for the ADDO to meet informally with Blakey over a luncheon. This would be useful in giving Blakey a picture of JM Wave, but also it would perhaps give Blakey a perspective on his own terms of reference, J.D. Walker. It says litigation, I guess that says Horman versus Secretary of State et al., James E. Anderson, COS Costa Rica. We prepared a reply to Anderson and suggested he indicate to the department that he would accept the routine officer of Department of Justice legal representation as a government official in the Horman family lawsuit. And this just says secret and sensitive. Let's see how many pages this has. All right, so this is from November of 77. Do not reproduce. Return to the CIA. This is for the Hague. 33077, Director, WN Intel, Rabat, Ream, Sympathizer, image color. And then sensitive sympathizer source indicates that on 3rd of October, Willem Oltmans made appointment to meet with Cuban ambassador at The Hague. Oltmans, I guess that's what that is, unless it's DL, but it looks like Oltmans stated he's going to America on 18th and that he is indeed prepared to go at the beginning of November as arranged. During discussion, Oltmans said he also had visit scheduled with Russian Ambassador Romanov for 3rd of October and wanted to combine the visits for the same day. Oltmans was told an attempt by a Cuban ambassador to meet with him during 25th of September had been unsuccessful because Oltmans could not be reached. Oltmans stated he had been in Soviet Union then. Above evidence of Oltmans continuing close contact with Cuba and Soviet diplomats and his recent travel to the USSR and apparent current travel to Cuba is of interest in view of his notorious role at the time of the death of George D. Is this Moran's child? That's what it looks like. Latter was of interest both to Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and House Assassinations Subcommittee. If HQs deems it appropriate, no station objection to conveying above with adequate source protection to proper congressional authorities. And then I guess they're trying to say basically you can disseminate this to other groups, and this is secret. Okay, this will probably be the last one for this video, and then I'll do another one because these are kind of long, especially that second one. Okay, so this is to Lisbon, info, London, and then Mexico City. It says Rabat, WN Intel, RN View. And then what was the date for this one? Does it even have a date? I don't see the date. My eyes are missing me. It says the U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations, who is currently investigating circumstances surrounding assassinations of President Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King, has told state that they intend to pursue leads in Portugal, UK, and Mexico relating to James Earl Ray, currently serving time for a King murder. They're basing this interest on information that Ray was in Lisbon briefly in May of 1968, shortly before his apprehension in London in June of 1968. Mr. G. Robert Blakey, Chief Counsel and Staff Director of Committee, says Select Committee told state that he wants to establish cordial relationship with the appropriate Portuguese National Police and hopes to enlist their assistance, including access to their files and in locating and interviewing potential witnesses. Department has solicited embassy suggestions as to how Blakey should proceed. And then wish to call above to addressees' attention in event stations are solicited for advice or assistance. RT Action is cooperating fully with Blakey and committee, including allowing them access to directorate records after suitable sanitization for sources and methods. However, believe committee's efforts to interview police and witnesses and resulting useful information obtained, if any, is largely overt function, which can best be handled by legats or others who would also be in a position to be publicly quoted or identified if necessary. Stations expected to provide embassy best advice if solicited, but requested to avoid involving station officers in negotiations, even in their cover capacities. If circumstances such that is avoidable, please advise HQs by cable so that the matter can be appropriately handled with Blakey and the department. And then this is Southern, Cummins, Lauder. This says Hawkins, but there's probably another name right there. And then James. They might have had to change people's stuff here. And then Berger. And this is from November 14th, 1977. And then they've got a bunch of signatures here, people. But anyway, I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to have a part 1 and a part 2 because there's too much from that one document that kind of messed everything up. But anyway, I'll be back on in a little bit. Obviously, my eyes are puffy this morning and I can't see, so that's why I take my glasses off. But anyway, I'll talk to y'all in a little bit. Have a great day. Bye.